Alright, let's be serious. Today's back day, and I'm just gonna get right into it. So, every time I train back, I kind of train it differently. You'll notice the style of training as you watch videos. I usually start with some heavy compound movement, and then I get more into my bodybuilder style. But I decided not to start with deadlifts and warm myself up a little bit. So first exercise is a little compound set. You'll notice with me, I love compound sets, I love supersets, I love drop sets, I love volume. So we're gonna start off with some volume, kind of warm our lats up for the rest of our workout. So we started off with our first exercise. We did a straight arm pull down, and I set that with a seated cable row. And you'll notice that I actually do the cable row two different ways. At the beginning, you'll see my body upright, hitting more of my middle back. You're pulling kind of a little above your belly button, under your chest, but you're really hitting your lats in the middle part of your back. The second part of that movement, the same exercise, I'm gonna drop the weight almost in half. I'm gonna make it really, really light, and I'm gonna lean all the way forward, and as I pull, I'm pulling all the way towards my belly button, and that is emphasizing the lats there. So we're coming from a lat exercise with the straight arm pull downs, and then going to hit your mid back, and then finishing with lats again. And now we're on to deadlifts. You'll notice today that I'm using the big Rogue wagon wheels. Why am I using them? They are the same as doing a rack pull, except you don't need to be in a rack. That's the whole purpose of them. So I understand that most gyms don't have these ginormous wagon wheels, so it's just a rack pull. Today I wanted to keep it because my legs were a little bit tired from the day prior, and I want to train legs tomorrow, so I thought I would save my legs and do these instead. With rack pulls or wagon wheel pulls, you're taking out the first portion of the deadlift, which is a lot of your legs, and just focusing on the last 3/4 of the rep, which is mostly your back. So I did that, and I did really high reps, which I also normally don't do. Deadlifting is usually something that I work up to a 1 rep max, or I normally don't do over 5 reps. So today I kept it above 10. It was 10 to 15 reps at about 75% of my max. So it was anywhere from, I went from about 250 to 260, somewhere in between there, and just repped it out. So next is a fun little exercise that I kind of made up in my own little brain, mostly because I can't just choose one exercise. I like to do them all. So what I do is I usually try to incorporate all of them into one workout. So this is what I'm kind of doing with this. This is the tricep pull down. I start with a front pull down in front of the head, in front of my face. And that usually I do that a little bit heavier. I then switch to a behind the head. Now, a lot of people out there, the behind the neck pull down gets a really bad rap. Exercise physiologists and training gurus say you shouldn't do it because they're very scared, and it puts pressure on your cervical spine, and it's bad for your rotator cuffs. I've never had an issue. If you have problems with mobility, if this exercise, if you're doing it and it feels weird or awkward, then don't do it. But don't do it just because someone else says it. That's like, don't get in a car because you might get in a car accident. For me, why I started doing the behind the neck, actually there were several years where I never even did in front. I would only do behind the neck because it felt better. And as a bodybuilder, I saw myself, okay, when I'm on stage and I'm doing a back double bi, that is a behind the neck pull down. So why not try to replicate this pose on stage into my training? So that's where it actually came from, and for me it always felt really good. And it isolated my lats a little bit more. It kind of took your front delts and your chest out of what I feel it a little bit. I feel in my front delts when I do a front pull down. When I do behind the neck, I don't feel that. So again, I'm not telling you you have to do this. I'm just saying give it a shot, and maybe don't always listen to other people. But you also don't need to listen to me. So anyway, I'm doing my tri-set. So I start off with, I did 5 sets, each ranging about 8 to 10 reps, 8 to 12 reps. I started with front, then I switched. I actually widened my grip a little bit for behind the neck. I also switch my position. I like to turn around because I feel like it comes more straight down. Depending on your lat pull down, you might have to move your body. So I actually position myself backwards. I lighten the weight. And then the last part, I lighten the weight just a little bit more, and I actually do bring my hands closer in, and I do a close grip pull down. Anytime you do a wide grip, you can only go so far. So when you bring your hands in closer, you can go that much farther. So your range of motion actually gets a little bit longer. So tricep pull down, give it a whirl, and don't hate on the behind the neck. If you have mobility problems, stretch, or just don't do it. So next we go to another staple in my back training, which is bent over rows. I don't know why I love them so much, but I love them. There's something that I feel like creates a lot of density and depth to your back. I don't know, if you want a wide, thick back, do bent over rows. So we worked up, not super heavy, kept it around 185 for 10 reps. And then I like to always add stuff in to burn out. So we did burnouts of pull-ups parallel to the floor. So I actually just used the same bar, prop my feet up, and then I just rep to failure. And the last, I save the best for last. We moved to one of my favorite back machines. Prime calls it their extreme row, and I use it maybe a little bit differently than how they tell you to use it. Usually you put all your weight, each set you move the plates. I use it a little bit differently, and I call these my extreme sets. So I do 4 extreme sets. You'll notice that there's different numbers on what they call the torque arm. So on a regular machine, usually, like, let's say you're on like a hammer strength. Hammer strength's great, but with that, you're always just working the same part of the movement, which is usually the mid-range in the movement. It's either a little easier at the beginning or it's a little easier at the end. You don't actually feel the same amount of weight throughout the entire rep. So what they created is this torque arm where you can work different parts of the movement. You'll notice that I'm using all the different parts in one set. So one set for me, basically I start with all the weight at number 1. If you put all the weight at number 1, it puts the peak resistance in the middle range of the exercise. Try to keep everything around 8 to 10 reps. And then I keep one plate in the middle. So that way I'm always having resistance in the middle range of my movement. And then I'm gonna move that quarter so that I'm putting more emphasis on different parts of the movement. So then I move it to number 3. When you move it to 3, that puts a little more pressure or more resistance at the beginning of the movement. So at the beginning it's a little bit harder, and then it lets off. I do as many reps as I can, and then I move the quarter to the bottom, number 2, which then puts the peak resistance at the end of the movement. So it's a little bit easier at the beginning, and then it gets hard. So you're really squeezing. And then I do a drop set, which I just strip the quarter off, and then I think I maybe even did like 20 reps. I just kept going. And you'll notice, like, I'll go, and sometimes I just stop and I try to go a couple more, and I try to do that all the time until I cannot move my arms anymore. So definitely check Prime out if you're a gym owner. You need to have this stuff in your gym, because I certify this as my favorite back exercise ever. So that is back day. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos that we started doing. I'm constantly trying to progress. I'm trying to make them better. I'm trying to be informative, but guys, let me know what you think. Hopefully these are at least motivating and giving you ideas for your workouts. Or maybe just tell me to shut up. Maybe I should just shut up and not be informative. But let me know your thoughts. Comment below, like it, share it, whatever. I just hope it helps you, makes your day better and makes your workout better. So we'll just try to keep them coming. And yeah, this is where I don't know how to end it. Have a good back day, yes.